Hoping the sound of my dad using the shower kind of gives a little ambience, like a pleasure, like, I guess, a quiet storm, dare I say, from Saturday Night Live with, I think it was Jeff Goldblum and Tim Meadows doing the sketch. The Quiet Storm. Yeah, and I'll digress on that. So, yesterday in London, we went and saw the Book of Mormon, and I mean, this is the best piece of satire, I think, since Blazing Saddles, or at least irreverent humor. My dad really enjoyed it, which is the most important thing. We left the theater, and, you know, he's a very stoic man, so it's kind of like, you know, I don't know. You can't really read him a lot, and I know he had some belly laughs during the show, but with, you know, changing attitudes, my mom most notably over the last 43 years, you just, don't know, but when we left the theater, I told them, you know, they were selling frogs, at the souvenir stand, and he said, well, that makes total sense, with a chuckle. And when I asked him about it, he just said, "Oh, I thought it was great, and that you know, I think your mom would even like it." He tried pitching it to her on a phone, but she seems resistant. More about, you know, just mom's not really very daring, I'd say, when it comes to cinema now. So, yeah, that's an entirely different conversation. But I mean, the performances are great. I really wish we could go and adapt it to the cinema, or at least, you know, let's just do it with the South Park stuff. So, but as I say, the performances were excellent. I really think, dare I say, just because of how the world is, I think our African performers being performed by Brits just gives it a little more authentic feel. And, you know, any good Brit except for Ewan McGregor or Jude Law can do a strong American accent. So their performances were great. I'm actually kind of curious about the constant misnaming of our female protagonist, which, sadly, you know, unless I go to Wikipedia right now, I'm not going to actually know the name of. I'm just, how current and frequently it changed. It's kind of like, was this improv? Like, I mean, just, this is, and it's just such a simple play, which is kind of why we got to shoot more of these, I think. I really need to go and watch Hamilton on Disney Plus, because I think, you know, keep it simple, and I mean, this could have been basically shot like the entire mission trip, Peace Corps trip, that was captured in Airplane. Like, yeah, you could use 2-3 sets, and I think it could be done nice, simple. You know, probably just because of inflation, $35 million. So, yeah, I think it'd be more than the risk of the backlash from the religious community. Because this, you know, you could say, oh, it trashes the Mormons. No, it trashes religion on a whole. And I think if you're wise, you're going to keep your beliefs. If, you know, so I don't think it's going to change your opinion on God, but it really makes you think, which is kind of like just a great place to be. Think in a positive way. I think the entire issue with religion is that so many people want to believe it is the end-all, be-all. And, you know, even having a conversation with my mom, she's a fan of the concept of reincarnation. Just the concept that there are only so many finite souls, which goes back to the Marc Maron HBO special, where he has a great bit about the concept of an angel factory, which is just an abortion clinic. get a priest out there, bless the women, and boom, angels every time. But that was entirely based on the concept that, somebody wrote him back saying, no, you can't have this because there's only a finite number of angels. Not all kids go to heaven, which, again, this is why we need stuff like the Book of Mormon to basically say, okay, some of it is bullshit. And I think this is something that probably should be taught in freshman college level theater. I would like to take any child to it myself, though, but that's why I'm not a parent. So, probably not going to have much to talk about tonight for this podcast, since it's just primarily going to be a baseball game, but hopefully I'll get to check out the Forbidden Planet Superstore, and I've only got 5 days here, so, 4 days, really, as I listen to the concierge when we checked in. So, but having a lot of fun. It's great just to spend time with my dad, try to pick his brain a little, and maybe just needed a little more drink to put me in a little more risk everything mood. So here's to liquid courage, and here's to London. The following podcast is protected under the laws of the United States, and in this case, the United Kingdom. Any unauthorized distribution, duplication may be punishable under civil and criminal liabilities and the wrath of the tall man. And I'll skip the Angus Scrim impersonation. This is 90 for Chill, the podcast with CatBusRuss. Of course, this is CatBusRuss, and I'm currently in the Tower Hill neighborhood of London, ironically, to see baseball. So, let's go Cubs, and sharing a room with my dad. So, he's currently in the shower. If that background noise is annoying you, I apologize. Just trying to find space alone where I can just go and talk. He says he's a deep sleeper, but no, I wasn't going to try screwing around at 5 in the morning as I'm awake, missing my indica. So, not really much to report yet. Just had dinner last night, fish and chips, of course. But, very good meal at the Keepers at the Novotel. And, otherwise walked out, picked up some snacks at the tube station, and trying to figure out how this internet stuff, sometimes I have it, sometimes I don't. It jumps between Vodafone and O2. I guess first world problems. So, if you look at the price of the hotel per night, sheesh. So, really, I guess, I want to get a podcast out this Tuesday, of course. And you know what? United Airlines offers some good movie selections. So, screwed up, though, initially. Wanted to try, I'll watch the Banshees of Inisherin, and then, wake up just with enough time to watch Marcel the Shell with Shoes, I believe. Animated title, Jenny Slate. Didn't work out that way, but I did watch Marc Maron's latest HBO special. I think it's Darker Than Bleak, and that was a lot of fun. As for the Banshees, the dialogue is just brilliantly written. As Neil McDonough always does. Colin Farrell is excellent. This is probably my favorite Barry Keoghan performance. And Brendan Gleeson is great. Definitely I could probably see Colin Farrell as a Best Actor winner, I suppose. And it's got the same kind of bleakness as In Bruges. Of course, not as crazy, since we're talking the Irish Civil War, but it's a great tale of just people trying to outgrow each other, and you kind of sympathize with Brendan Gleeson trying to move on an island, I guess, is the big problem. So you kind of respect him dealing with his despair by cutting off fingers to avoid talking to dull people like Colin Farrell. But you really do relate to Colin Farrell's situation. trying to take assessment of my own life during that, having a kind of fallen apart many times with my best friend. But I don't think I'm as dull as Colin Farrell. I mean, I got my movies. I'm trying to create a legacy without children. I mean, the entire difficulty is Brendan Gleeson wants to be a musician, or at least spend his twilight years creating his legacy. And of course, he's on an island, and they don't tend to go to the mainland during the Irish Civil War. Beautifully shot, and I mean, the dark humor is just right up my alley. I can't remember the name of the actress who plays Colin Farrell's sister in the film, but she is excellent. I mean, all the performances are great. And love the all cops are bad message even back then. As for the Marc Maron special, so I'm combining these for the first part of the podcast, saying, well, an hour 5 from Marc Maron, an hour 49. It fits, how I would program films at the Six Raven movie house or the Murder movie house. And I mean, that's just really, it was just kind of awkward having my just the concept that people are looking over your shoulder watching what you watch in an airplane. And of course, I'm in the back row, in the back corner. So you just worry about Dad, I don't like all this mocking the right stuff, but it's a really Marc Maron just really nails how society is going, and really gives you a heartfelt story about loss. So, maybe I'm just dealing with my own despair, and it's not really sleeplessness. But I miss my cat Ava, of course. It's kind of and it's just hurts more because I had her boarded, and I appreciate the hiss she gave the crew when I left her, but I think she may have given that to me because they said, "Oh, we have another boarder?" "Yes." "A kitten?" And I said, "Oh, that's being rather generous, since Ava's 15. So Ava may have taken offense at me for that comment. So, but yeah, that's so far what my trip has been. I'm going to go off and see the Book of Mormon tonight, or this afternoon. And, I'll feel up for it or find the time as my dad's probably all finished cleaning up. I'll try to give you another recording about that. Definitely not going to do this bonus episode stuff. I mean, I've got enough content trying to move stuff from Podbean over, and oh gosh, the headaches of maintaining this, still dealing with HostGator not letting me change my landing page to my 90 for Chill with CatBusRuss Spotify profile. So lots of fun when I get back, but fairly light schedule next week. And with that said, if you want to be on the show, and I'll probably say this every recording, send an email to russthebus07@gmail.com. That's RUSSTHEBUS07@gmail.com. Offer me a feature, theme, director, actor, and it's simpler to just come up with something that's 90 minutes long. 70 to 100 are the rules, but after the marathon, which I hope is really pushing up those numbers, thank you again, Andrew TD, for all your help. That's at CouchmanPigs. We can really open things up, and you can talk about whatever you want. So, to the poetic critic, we have the formula now for Man on the Moon, or just Jim Carrey, because gosh, I mean, yes, I have a copy of Amadeus I've been meaning to watch, but man, if I go through the entire filmography of Milos Forman, that's going to be quite a bit of time. So, I mean, yeah, I got time next week, but really, that much? I still got to bang out all these Pokemon so I can start playing AEW Fight Forever when I get back. But thanks for listening thus far, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. And I'm now back stateside from my trip to London. Had a lot of fun at the London series where the Cubs won on aggregate. I think the score would be 16-8. No, sorry, 14-8. I mean, I can blame jet lag for it, but, the flight back is a lot easier than the flight to. So, I woke up around 9-ish, so I guess that would be the same if I had my little kitty with me, Ava, which I still got to pick up today or tomorrow. She's booked till tomorrow. This is Tuesday, so I'm doing my best to get this episode out, before I do all my promotion, my tweet bombs, and all that bollocks. I mean, it was an interesting trip, and until I got back and hear Rory arguing about my older sister, the poetic critic, arguing about the box office stuff. Did I think I ever dropped any B's? Any F's, bombs? Heck, I don't think I've said a C in a while, so kind of impressed, or I guess just nice having a weekend where I wasn't getting angry about anything. But, on the flight home, I did watch a couple of movies. Most importantly, I did watch Marcel the Shell with Shoes, and it's just a beautiful work. It takes a while to really get it figured out. Like, okay, is this kind of the dynamic? But once you really sit in and just accept that it's a mockumentary, it's a lot of fun, especially when you bring so much reality into it. Elements, I should say, like the entire 60 minutes wanting to do a story on Marcel. This is the new Muppets, and all my honest take, because I figure a lot of it had to be pretty practical effects. Whenever the mouth moves on the shell, it's talking. It's gonna be CG, but hey, that's what the industry's become. But no, I love it's stop motion, and it really feels like it's in a real world. So it's beautiful in that element. I can't recall what won Best Animated Movie for 2023 at the Oscars, and I should say 2022, but I digress. But Jenny Slate's awesome in it. Kind of wish I should have gone into just trying to find a quiet room in my parents' house. I've got my niece and nephew bugging my dad right now in the main floor, and I think the AC unit's right next to my sister's study. So, in other words, can't pull up a computer to figure out the name. But Jenny Slate and Dean Chapman, I'll just go with that for the time being. My apologies. Wrote the Marcel stories as a children's book series I was not aware of, which really makes this even more powerful, I think, that we turn a children's book series where I don't think she's doing a mockumentary thing. Or, just, it's a scenario where you wouldn't think you'd have to deal with humans. And this, just bringing her to the real world, bringing him, Marcel is a he, regardless of who he's voiced by, to the real world. It's, and then basically, the director is playing himself. And it's interesting, again, just because they were a couple for a pretty long time, until Jenny Slate found Chris Evans real briefly. No, just kidding around. Wikipedia. Not that reliable. But it gets real touching when you... So, the story is about an amateur film director moving into an Airbnb after his divorce with his dog and discovering Marcel, the one-inch shell, and how Marcel, spends her time, getting her feet into honey so she can walk up walls to get to higher places. His main conveyance is a empty, hollowed-out tennis ball. And he lives with his grandma, Connie, voiced by Isabella Rossellini. And it's just really nice, since I can't say I know much Isabella Rossellini before the 21st century. And I say that as in I hadn't seen her movies. I mean, Blue Velvet. I mean, this it really is is the first thing I know her from, and I mean, she's awesome in that. And man, just reminds you of how messed up that relationship was at times when it was good. I guess that's what I'm looking for. There's a great conversation in the film where Connie's trying to find out more about Dean, and like, so who I broke up with who? Oh, it was a mutual thing. Oh no, it's never mutual. I mean, it's just some great stuff. It's a real grounds the film when it gets really ridiculous when Marcel's becomes a YouTube star. But it's just, as I say, it's just a beautiful film. So I guess I'm going to give it 5 stars to that. And this is, of course, on my flight back to the States. And, you know, I was able to get a good 3.5, 4 hours of sleep. So timed everything a lot better, basically. So I could watch another 90-minute movie. Well, it's 100, but you know how the podcast goes. You don't want to go too far past 90. So, and that was Death Becomes Her, Robert Zemeckis' 1992 feature with Bruce Willis, Meryl Streep, and Goldie Hawn, which is just a fun little ensemble there, and Isabella Rossellini as the inciting incident. And this is like, as I talked with Andrew about Tombstone, it's kind of like, I just love the world building so much, I really don't need a third act. And the third act kind of feels rushed, but the story is about 2 frenemies. Jeez, bringing it to the 20 teens. Goldie Hawn and Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep is a successful actress, regardless of her talent, and Goldie Hawn was her best friend growing up. And the problem is that Streep has a tendency to steal all of Goldie Hawn's boyfriends. So the plot starts with her going to a lousy stage adaptation of, well, the play's called Songbird. I'd have to do a little more research. Again, don't have a computer by me. But it's a fun musical number, and the reactions are all appropriate from the audience, except for Bruce Willis, who is fascinated by her performance. And eventually, of course, the point is Goldie Hawn brings him to see the show and meet Meryl Streep to test him, and he fails. They get married. 14 years later, well, in the interim, Goldie Hawn's character is so depressed that she gets fat, really fat. Cupboard full of cats and Betty Crocker frosting fat. She eventually realizes that the entire thing she has to do is get over this is to get Madeleine Albright. I say Madeleine Albright. Sorry. To get the Madeleine's the name of the Meryl Streep character. And so she's going to destroy her life instead of just be a victim. And we find out 14 years later. And Bruce Willis is like a premier plastic surgeon when he meets Meryl Streep. But living with Meryl Streep and basically being a slave to her whims of making her look younger every day, or at least attempt to, he develops alcoholism and just goes and becomes the premier undertaker of Los Angeles. So it's the perfect time. Goldie Hawn's character, Helen, issues a new book about her recovery, and we find her looking like, a really made-up Goldie Hawn. I'm not trying to be rude. It's just the fact that Goldie Hawn is playing 50 in this. She may not have been that at the time, but I'm just rolling right now. Same thing with Meryl Streep. And she's out to destroy Meryl Streep's life and take back Bruce Willis. Bruce Willis is just conflicted, trying to be a good person despite his alcoholism. But is talked into committing a murder or conspiring to commit a murder by Helen, and Bruce Willis's character is Ernest. So let's just get all the names out there so I can. While they're doing that, Meryl Streep's character Madeline decides to just after being rejected by her younger concubine, to just go and find this quack she was suggested to, portrayed by Isabella Rossellini, who really that's the beauty of Rossellini's career, is just her ability to go from absolute sex symbol to rugged, worn, and still look beautiful. I'm not going to say the Shell looked beautiful, but yeah. And we find out that she has a magic potion that will make you stay young forever. We soon discover, after a fight between Willis and Streep, that no, it basically kills you, but your body stays the same. Of course, it's not that simple. You fall down a flight of stairs, break your neck, get a shotgun blast through your stomach. You got stuff you have to repair. And fortunately for Meryl Streep and Helen, who took the potion to start the entire events, they have the best Undertaker, so there's somebody to take care of them. So if they can overcome their differences, they should be fine. Except that Ernest will die. So that's the story. And we'll leave it there. And as I say, the first two acts are great. And laugh a minute, real positive comedy. I guess if you compare it to Zemeckis' say, Used Cars, I think they kind of just go joke for joke instead of build, but it works. It's nice, fast pace, which, again, I kind of wanted more of that than rushing to a conclusion. As for the effects, it was made in 92, so I don't know if we're talking about... Well, it used a lot of rotoscoping. Ralph Bakshi's big on that concept in his animation, which... hit and miss on that. I don't think there's any Ralph Bakshi I've seen, though, that's not worth a watch. So we did Fritz the Cat on the podcast with Gregory Carl. And I inadvertently trying to finish my best love list, and I had Fritz pretty high, and then it's like, oh, shoot, drop the ball on that. Fire and Ice talked about the 80s animation Disney Damnation episode, and that was had its moments. And The Lord of the Rings, which just covers the first two books, I think is worth a watch. So American Pie, I'll stand by that movie though. American Pop is excellent though, that is certain. So the effects though could have been better, but we're the best of the time. And honestly, it's really only apparent when we deal with Meryl Streep breaking her neck, and hence her head is completely wrapped around her body. So it's like the body movements are great. The actual rotoscoping of Meryl Streep's face is good, but it just still doesn't really work in one unit. It's like, let's do an expanded scene of Judge Doom inflating himself from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. So, but yeah, it's a weird Isabella Rossellini double feature to return to the States too. So it's fun, but definitely could I don't like to use like I was talking to the big sister last night, and she was going off on how Wish is just going to be garbage. Disney's Wish is just going to be garbage because it's ripping off of all stories like Solar Babies. And I said, oh, that about somebody hoarding wishes. And I was like, oh, that's kind of City of Lost Children with dreams. Like I could keep throwing stuff saying it's not that bad. It's not that bad. Worst thing Wish is going to be is Disney Animation's Rise of Skywalker. And I still cry whenever I see all the ships come to save the day in Rise of Skywalker. And, like, I'm fighting the tears just for the moment because the shots are awful. But just for the moment, I'm holding back tears. Like, everybody's getting back. Yeah. You better give me Doug Lawson. Wedge lives. Like, could we have figured a way to bring back Biggs? That's all I really brought myself back to reality. But, shed a tear. So I think it's going to impress the Disney adults. I really don't know what a Disney adult is. Somebody at one of my jobs told me, are you a Disney adult? And I think, oh, probably not. I'm old. Like, I know I grew up on Disney and then it just kind of got blown up. But the point of the matter is, when my older sister is bringing up what it's stealing from, what Wish is going to be stealing from, it's kind of like, I want to make my movie Main Event of the Dead. Send an email to russthebus07@gmail.com with suggestions on how to move it to a Kickstarter, crowdfunding, Indiegogo stage. Greatly appreciated. More than happy to send a treatment out to you. It's what am I thinking of? So I want to get my movie made. So he can write, directing, not necessarily what I think. Like, I don't like to give my former psychologist Robert Glazeski a lot of credit, but he saw me more as a playwright, and I can appreciate that. Which is just something funny walking through the theater district of London and seeing how the writer of the play, because a lot of them are remakes, of course, or revivals, I should say, are just focused so much on the writer, the person who penned the script, not the director. So, yeah, maybe I do just need to go and... that's going back to moving up Chicago. And it's like, that's the big thing from coming back from London. It's like, boom, give me a day. I'll figure out the transportation system. I'll know where to go. I just wish I had a O2 or a Vodafone SIM card. I still have an old Apple 11 that this podcast is being recorded on through the Spotify for Podcasters app. So I could have pulled off the SIM card and swapped it and had service over in England. Be a lot easier than my dad. He's just not up for walking all the time. So, but the fact that I can figure out the tube so easy, it's like, I could go back, I could move up to Chicago and figure out the L like nothing. And, of course, finding resources to get up there is the big problem. So it's basically that. It just makes me really want to get back to make that next step. So, if I'm going to stay single in Champaign, I might as well be single in Chicago. So that's, I guess, kind of where my head's at. I mean, I'd love to live in London, but, $690 a night for a hotel in the Tower Hill district. I'm sure there's places, but there's nowhere to live is the big thing going on over there. It happens to me anytime I spend at a great hotel. The Novotel in Tower Hill is a great property, good lunch. Good breakfast. The restaurant's all right. I guess the big thing about the restaurant is just staff, and then I can basically better stop, because then I'll get myself in trouble, or like, the classic concept that, well, yeah, I hope everybody is treated fairly, but geez, have you dealt with these people and seen patterns, stereotypes, basically? No, don't want to go into that type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, I find, it makes me like, I could be in hospitality in London. I could be in hospitality in Chicago, places where people care about making sure people have great stays, instead of like, hey, you want a bed? That's Champaign-Urbana. I hope Peoria Peoria in general is a lot better, but it's probably Mark Twain was the exception. And when I worked there, and when I visited there a few months ago, it's like, yeah, that's kind of like falling on the customer service side of it. Not to say that it's bad customer service, it's just not, so much of like showing what great hospitality is. So that's my vibe, Bleak, coming back home. It's just like, I want to stay. And it's just not the good time to do a trip in sweltering heat on your own, I suppose. Well, sweltering heat with company. Because, you get done with a low 80s baseball game in the evening, and after an hour back to the hotel, you just don't have the energy to get yourself into trouble. So I could not take the time to invest in myself and try to find myself a limey sugar mama. So yeah, I guess, sometime I'm just going to have to throw everything away and make a vacation on my own there, because this was my 40th birthday present. So, things to strive for, I suppose. So, well, thank you for indulging my London trip, primarily the flights, but you did get the Book of Mormon in there. And, let's make a real podcast this week. I will post what kind of hours I have on my Twitter and Mastodon accounts. My Twitter account is at CatBusRuss. My Mastodon is at Russ Stevens at mastodon.social. I'm sure you can shorten it to just at Russ Stevens and they'll figure it out, but I digress. I'll throw out the times, and I'll do it on my Facebook for all my friends, quote unquote. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. About times to do podcasting this week and what have you. And if you want to be on the show, and after hearing all this, let's talk. Send an email to russthebus07@gmail.com. That's RUSSTHEBUS07@gmail.com. Offer me a movie, a director, a theme, an actor. I'd like to just focus on sub 100-minute movies, but I'll make anything work. Thank you, Andrew TD, again, the at Couchbound Bakes, for and Screen Drafts for coming up for, I think, perfecting the marathon. Thank you. Times being considered there, not just, let's watch 4 2.5 hour movies in a row. What do they know? I mean, all artsy fartsy idiots. I'll get back to it. So, yeah, if you want to be on the show, send an email to russthebus07@gmail.com, or direct message me on Twitter at CatBusRuss. Mastodon's a little confusing there, but we can get it done. Otherwise, I got to get back home. I'm thinking about maybe trying to slav around Peoria a bit, since I don't have to pick up my cat Ava. She's been drugged, so she might be at peace right now. In a spiritual sense, that's kind of weird. In her headspace. There we go. But it's going to be great to get her out of that kennel and just see how she adjusts to me. So yeah, basically I get a call in England like, Ava's doing great, but she is stressed out, so can we do something about that? So, sorry, Ava. I blame Allie. How hard is it to check on a kitty once a day? she's going to get compensated for those comments, don't worry. But, all I really have left to do is, thank Station Marie Harden for keeping an eye on me, keeping me out of trouble, not allowing, keeping me out of trouble. As let's say, I'm not going to put godlike powers upon her spirit, but thanks though for being like the inspiration that keep me like I guess it goes back to the Banshees of Inisherin and it's like legacy, like, and now I kind of sympathize with the Colin Farrell character who was just nice and deserves to be remembered for that. But you remember the artist. And I'll say that about Stacia. She knew I was an artist. So, trying to do everything, which, hey, why not do everything? Kind of feels half-assed if you're relying on other people. I know, hypocritical from a lot of standpoints. I didn't pay for the vacation. But, she's looking after me, and I know she's doing her best to take care of the people she touched in her life. And I hope she's squeezing the undead ectoplasm out of Skimble. I mean, he was just so cuddly. The one-eared angel. So, I don't think I have too much more to say. Just got to work on the putting everything together with the Spotify Podcasters app. And we'll be done. So, thanks again for coming to 90 for Chill, the podcast. And can I get a woohoo?